The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
As Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, hello there, and welcome to Force Center Presents Databank Dive. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Ken Napzok. This is a show where we take something from the StarWars.com databank and dive into it, thus the title Databank Dive. We have a lot of fun doing this. We had so much fun doing this for The Companion, a wonderful sci-fi app that we invite you to check out that first season there if you want to check out The Companion. But this is a lot of fun. I'm excited. Joseph, I know what's coming, but I'm still going to giggle.
Yeah, this is a particularly fun one. This is a character that was featured on our old show, Databank Brawl, where we'd talk about some characters and then they would fight because it was fun to imagine this character fighting. Our topic today is the very well-known, the beloved, the character with an extremely easy to say and memorize name. It is TT-8L/Y7. Did I even say that right? I have to double check as I go. It's so easy to say. TT-8L/Y7. This is, if you're not immediately familiar, also called the Gatekeeper droid or the Tattletale droid. It's the droid, that's an I, that is mean to C-3PO in Return of the Jedi. Are you excited to talk about an I, Ken?
I am very excited. This is one of those names that has always, the Gatekeeper droid, easy to memorize. Tattletale droid, easy. Door droid, TT-8L/Y7 is one of those ones where I was trying to memorize it for trivia, and I went, I don't care. I'll miss that question.
I always get it close, and then I throw a 3 in there. Or I say the wrong, dash slash. What am I saying? I'm always so close. I am like my grandma used to be with Star Wars names. Always so close, but not quite right. C4PIO, what? Yeah. So here is what the StarWars.com databank has to say about TT-8L/Y7. These Gatekeeper droids were iStock droids that were installed in doors and entryways to screen visitors. They earned their nickname Tattletale droids from their obnoxious demeanor in the pursuit of fulfilling their programming. They were manufactured by Servodroid Inc. and were in use across the galaxy for years. During the Clone Wars, one was installed in Rishi Station Outpost and another was used by Ga Nacht, a Trandoshan traitor, probably the most infamous and annoying TT-8L/Y7 in use was the one who kept visitors out of Jabba's palace. This is a notable Star Wars databank entry for 2 reasons. It's got some typos in it that I discovered as I was reading, and it's got a strong opinion. Sometimes they're a little bit more of like encyclopedia entries, right? Of just the facts. You can make an emotional interpretation, but here are the facts. Not here. StarWars.com databank has some extremely strong opinions about the emotional attitude of this droid. How do you feel about that?
It goes in hard, this databank entry. It really does. It's making some judgments. I don't necessarily think they're wrong judgments, but it's judging. That's for sure.
Yeah. Obnoxious. I don't know if obnoxious is the first word I would use. Like, I get that it's obnoxious, but I think I would go scary first. Do you feel scary or obnoxious when you see this droid?
Scary. I'll go rude.
Rude. Yeah.
There's not some proper decorum at the door there. I'll say that. Not just annoying. Maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's the low voice. Maybe I think low voice means scary, high voice means obnoxious.
With all due respect to high voice door droids out there.
Exactly. But these are mostly low voice droids. There's, of course, more information on Wikipedia. Wikipedia says the TT-8L/Y7 Gatekeeper droid, also known simply, is the TT-8L. I wonder if that's simple. And nicknamed the Tattletale droid, was a model of security droid manufactured by Servodroid Inc. The TT-8L/Y7 Gatekeeper droid was installed in doors and entryways on screens to screen visitors and scan for weapons, considered obnoxious and invasive.
Oh, okay. Invasive, maybe.
Yeah. The droid enjoyed their position of control and were nicknamed Tattletale droids due to their demeanor in the pursuit of fulfilling their programming. They spoke in a barking metallic voice using an attached speaker and had a grating laugh.
Okay, that's heck.
TT-8L/Y7s also functioned as holocams. So a lot of that was a repeat, but there was a little bit more obnoxious and invasive, and it was great to clarify that they do speak in a barking metallic voice. Okay, that's the obnoxious part. It's not the high or the low, it's the general timbre.
Yeah, the tone and tenor and the approach, right? The intent behind some of the stuff going on there. This droid can't help its voice, but what it does with its voice might be what's in its control.
Right. This is not like a butler droid with an elegant voice of like, excuse me, I'm so sorry to let you know you can't enter. This is like, no, get out of here. Get. Yeah. Extremely rude.
Yeah. It's the dock worker of the Star Wars world. Like, what are you? Hey, you don't belong here. Get out of here.
Oi. Maybe that's what they're saying in Huttese is, oi.
I will say it then.
So I have to ask, from the get-go here, we can keep saying TT-8L/Y7 until we become very comfortable with it. But we've got three other names to choose from. Door Droid, Gatekeeper Droid, Tattletale Droid. Which is your favorite?
I like Gatekeeper Droid because that word gatekeeper has developed, into something, a big topic in the world, right? Which is an important topic. I'm against gatekeeping, and even want to point out the subtle ways that gates are kept in pop culture and the rest of the world and other subjects. So I think that works for me, Gatekeeper Droid. But I'll go TT-8L works too, but even then, that's kind of a mush mouthful.
Yeah, Tattletale Droids is really fun because it feels like it's trying to take their power away. Because like, oh, you're the droid who's going to send your little message back to Bib Fortuna hiding there and tell them, oh, this person's at the door. Or, look, that person looks like they might have a blaster bulge. Okay, Tattletale. Tattletale's kind of mocking them and taking their power away. But Gatekeeper Droid is giving them their power. They can stop you from entering. Yeah,
which is there to defend them from the start. Maybe we'll see how far that defense goes as this conversation goes on. But that is their job. So, do you call a bouncer a tattletale? No, he's doing his job. That power might go to his head, or, you don't know the abuse he's taken by the time you get to them at the night. But Gatekeeper at least says that is your job. What do you do with that power is up to you.
That's a really good comparison. Like, oh, this tattletale bouncer is telling everyone my idea is fake and I'm not on the list. Yeah. I like Gatekeeper Droid too. I think that's probably the main one I'll use as we go, Gatekeeper Droid, because it is their responsibility, as you said. It's also funny to imagine them being extra obnoxious that way. Like they absolutely launch out of their little hidey hole. Somebody's like, hey, I'd like to come into this convention. They launch out of their hidey hole and go, oh, do you like Ahsoka Tano? Oh, what species is she? Yeah, like just total gatekeeping.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel? How did you feel about this Gatekeeper Droid when you were a kid? Was it funny, scary? Did you kind of naturally understand emotionally what it was? What was the beginning of your journey?
As I've discussed here before in Force Center, I was a little skittish, frightened kid, still kind of skittish and frightened as an adult. I don't watch a lot of horror movies or jump scares or stuff. I try to avoid that. And I think the Rancor monster and the Door Droid, the Gatekeeper Droid, I think are part of that and part of that journey. This droid terrified me. What was it? Because remember, we got the B'omarr Monks spider droid that we see seconds later, right? I thought it was kind of the same thing. And I was like, why is there a giant spider with an eye poking through a door? I was confused. That's a great question for you to ask. Were you kind of confused or not? Did you not understand what it was? I did not understand what it was at 7 in the theater. It just terrified me because 3PO was terrified by it.
Is that a spider part? I like that. Right. It is skittering. Speaking of skittering, the B'omarr Monk is skittering very nearby, holding on to its brain jar. I think, I don't know why I wasn't scared. I should be scared because we've talked often how much the cantina scene in A New Hope and Wu Hare's general attitude of annoyance at Luke's existence both scarred us and made us frightened of ordering drinks in bars. So the Gatekeeper Droid should have that same vibe to me. I should have been scared of it. I would have been terrified of that as a child if some, thing came out of a door and questioned whether or not I belonged there. So it really should be just tap dancing on the anxieties I had as a kid.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I think I've always thought of it as funny. So I rewatched the Return of the Jedi scene this morning to be like, why did I find it funny? It's because it's all about 3PO's terror. It's all, it's the cruelty of like, I don't mind it happening to 3PO, which I'm not particularly proud of, but that's clearly the way I absorbed it as a child. Like, it's funny when it happens to 3PO. I don't want it to happen to me, but great.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, no, you're tapping into why I think I was terrified. I think I put myself in 3PO's eye sockets, and I remember being terrified as a kid that. Yeah, there's something. I talk about Star Wars therapy. Get into this here. Like there was one time we got stuck in the snow in Big Bear in a Subaru station wagon in like '86. Right, I'm like 10. I had a breakdown. I thought we were never going to see home again. Right, like I just had this concept of we're done. We're done. We're on this hill. We're on this road. The sun will never rise, and I just lost it as a kid. And I think there was something about 3PO knocking on the door, not getting in, and there's just this vast desert. And I was like, they're done for. They're done for. What are you thinking of this eye kept them out?
Yeah, it's such a funny scene the way 3PO knocks just very quietly and then tries to leave immediately, you know? And it's almost like the gatekeeper droid is calling out his cowardice.
Yeah, and look, I think now that's pretty funny. Like now it probably is a very well done comedic beat that as a kid hit me in another way.
Yeah, and I think as I got a little bit older and saw Return of the Jedi again on VHS, and then finally had it as a teen, I felt like as a teen, doors were an opportunity for anxiety. Some weren't marked push or pull, and I was always afraid of the embarrassment of pushing or pulling. Even worse if it is labeled push or pull, and you're busy talking to someone and trying to impress them, and you do the wrong thing, and they're all going to laugh at you. And I just was not very strong at all. I was a little scrawny guy, so sometimes I'd just be like, I need to use two hands on this door, and people would laugh at me for having to use two hands. Look at two-hand scrimshaw. I can't even open this door. So I think I felt like some comfort that, like, look, see, doors are difficult. It's a truth, and this droid acknowledges it.
Well, two-hand scrimshaw is like a 19th century outlaw. That's like in a gang. It's all two hands over there. That's great.
Oh, he double draws pistols, right? No, he can't open a door. Old two-hand scrimshaw. So there's a little bit of our emotional anxieties in response to the gatekeeper droid. Ken, how would you physically describe TT-8L/Y7?
A metallic eyeball on a stick. All right. And you're like, well, of course. Yeah. But that's what it was. And it also connected to that lady in Dark Crystal who pulls the eye out. And that terrified me too.
Yes.
So I think there was some connection there in my early days. Yeah. Now it goes on to, you can find out photos of what it kind of looks like. And it has it's like a little, like almost, camera mount. It looks like it's got a little stand, like you're putting a tripod on your desk, and then it goes all the works its way. There's this great picture on Wikipedia that you just got. It's like 4 prongs, and it goes up just onto like an arm that moves, and then the eye is almost put on there as if it's like you're putting on lighting equipment for a set. Like some grip did that, and or some Best Boys electronic, right? Yeah, then an eye. It's like it's not even like I don't even describe it as like a tennis ball so it's an eyeball. The design on it's so good. We'll discuss that, but like it's always come across as a metal eye, which kind of terrified me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is just it's all eye all the time. There's some other stuff there, but it is so eye forward. And you're right, it does look like some like modern selfie lighting or camera. It looks like
yeah.
What if a selfie stick wanted to kill you? It's a really nasty little arm. I really like that it is mostly eye. It is a bulbous eye. It's a big eye. And then it's got that weird little thing that looks like it should be a handle, but it's covered with spikes.
Yeah.
Which really adds to the gatekeeping of, in theory, you should be able to touch me, but you can't.
No touching.
Yeah, which is fine. No, you shouldn't be touching things that don't want to be touched. But it looks like it's designed to be like, oh, yeah, this handle is here for people who are installing it or doing maintenance on the droid, and yet it can't be used the way it looks like it should be used.
Yeah. Yeah, because this could just be a nice function of a good space age door, but instead it's got this literal spikes on it, so its attitude is a little adjusted.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things going deeper into the design, like you're talking about, that makes it look real nasty is it could have just had like an eyelid, right? Or not even an eyelid. But it's got what looks to us like an eyelid. That's this weird sort of little like drippy mouth. Like it looks like it should be cute. Like it's little ice cream drips, but it looks like it'll bite your finger off.
Yeah, that's a good point. Looking at it a little more closely, because it's really just like a covering, right? It opens up, and then you got this eye staring at you there, and the design of that mouth is even a little bit like was it Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors? So it's another little scary thing.
Yeah, the overall impact for me, Ken, is this entire droid looks like being caught doing something embarrassing in public. That's the vibe.
Yes. Yeah.
And perhaps that leads us into a potential answer for our next question, which is, for you, what is the magic of TT-8L/Y7? Why do these gatekeeper droids add to the fabric of Star Wars?
Well, and trying to discover the true magic of the gatekeeper droid, I'm gonna answer it in two sides. There's the modern day adult Ken that looks at this and just thinks it's a bizarre sci-fi design. It's kind of funny in a way. It's a door droid. It's a very sci-fi thing. Like I always go to like examples of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which really Douglas Adams is just playing around with the genre that already existed and kind of having some fun with it. So it reminds me of something like that. So there's that kind of modern day magic. But I got to go also to when I was a kid, when I was 7. Yes, I was terrified. Yes, I was scared. But it just seemed so out of this world. Talk about a story taking place in a galaxy far, far away. It was like, God, even the doors are against you. And what is that? and the confusion over the Boromar monk and the gatekeeper droid for me was like, that kind of confusion also created, intrigue into me wanting to find out more about this galaxy. And then the ability to be transported away. Just those little kind of nuggets of magic all through the series, especially the original trilogy for me as a kid. And this was part of it. It was memorable. The laugh, everything about it, my terror, everything about it was memorable and just made this seem like this fantastical world that I couldn't quite understand.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that. I love that it's in this kind of perfect zone for me of Star Wars where it's almost logical, but not quite. Of like, if you have high tech to make basically any function, any day-to-day function in the galaxy be a droid, I've had this conversation with lots of people, like, why don't they just have droids do X, Y, or Z? And like, because it's Star Wars and there's, there's customs and there is finance and not everything can be a droid, but lots of things can be a droid. So that almost logical, but not quite, like, why not make the whole door a droid? But it's this custom thing you can stick on your door. And it's so fantastic in 1983 when the movie comes out, but at this point with like ring security and all those different security where you can be looking at cameras from your door, you can be halfway across the world and on the internet and talking to somebody at your own front door, that like they're not actually that bonkers anymore.
Gosh, I was at a diner not too long ago on my phone talking through my door to some people coming to work on our house. I was just like, do you have the code? So now I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to be the gatekeeper, Jordan, actually do the laugh.
Yeah, and do the blah, 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 binky, whatever it is they say, but it ends with something like binky, which is both scary and funny. But then big picture for me, I really, really agree with you that it is that sense of wonder and imagination. It's if you're kind of looking through 3PO's eyes as a kid, which clearly I was looking at 3PO, not through him, and enjoying his discomfort. But if I'm empathizing with 3PO, it's this great feeling that the Star Wars galaxy, you're wandering through it, and at any moment, anything might be alive and also possibly mad at you. Which is scary, but also just gives it that sense of wonder and fantasy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it makes me just want to walk through Galaxy's Edge and go, what part of this world might yell at me at any moment?
Oh, that's a good point. They don't have one in there yet. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, that'd be a great place. Well, we're going to talk about where else these gatekeeper droids should be doing their gatekeeping in a moment when we return from our break. Back in a moment. And we are back to continue our discussion of TT-8L/Y7, the Gatekeeper droid. When we started this episode, I was like, I don't know if I want to say that every time, but now I feel a challenge. So, Ken, do you think this droid can help what it is? All of these descriptions are calling it obnoxious. It's overly obsessed with its mission to guard these doors, to gatekeep these spaces. Can it help being obnoxious? Can this droid change?
I think it can. We all can. We also sometimes you have a job, and it's how you take that job, how you approach that job, how much of it is your identity, how much of it isn't, and not to get too deep, but like this droid wakes up, so to speak, and it's like, I'm in a door. This is my gig. This is my lot in life, and you at certain times might be a little grumpy about that. And again, I say like, bouncers can, or any kind of, security personnel keeping you out of place can be jerks, can be problems. But I always say, just consider the 50 people who approached them before you, and guaranteed a lot of them didn't treat them right. So, maybe I'm trying to give a little grace and a little room for growth in the Gatekeeper droid, though I do think this one's really enjoying his power on Jabba's power.
Oh, yeah, enjoying his power. But yeah, if you had only one mission in all of life, you might be obsessive about it. If you were a droid designed just to make peanut butter sandwiches,
right?
Wouldn't you be really obsessive and obnoxious about it? Mm-hmm. Who's going to get this peanut butter sandwich? The peanut butter sandwich has got to be right. You better enjoy it. Did you enjoy it? Tell me. Do you creamy? Well, come on. Answer my questions. I think that droids can absolutely change. We've seen that. Mm-hmm. Some of it takes some love. I'd love to see this story. I want to see Kuiil, or since he is sadly passed on, I want to see Kuiil, or maybe Peli Motto, who's also big on droids. Give this droid a chance to care about something else. I would love to see them make it very Douglas Adams territory, but make it a tour guide. An alarm clock. Let it look at the sky. Imagine Peli Motto just coming along and going like, hey, I can adjust just a couple little bits and you can look up for once. And have the droid suddenly be like, Bodo Bodo Binky. Different world. I've seen the sky.
Yeah. I get behind that. Give the Gatekeeper droid a chance.
Exactly. And another reason that I think that perhaps they are obnoxious and a little obsessed with their role is I feel like there may be kind of unfair limits to the Gatekeeper droid's powers. What do you think the actual limits are? Certainly we see that they can refuse to physically open the door. They seem to have control of that. I'm sure they can call for security. I'm sure they're, zipping information to Bib Fortuna. But do they have weaponry? Should they? Should they be able to physically defend the door themselves rather than just tattletale?
I would like them to have the ability to defend themselves. Again, do I want to keep people out of Jabba's palace? I don't know. I'm not here to defend Jabba, but there's got to be someone along the Star Wars galaxy path there that is like, we're doing some good science experiments in here that might help, with creatures and beings and people in the galaxy. We need a good door guard. So give that droid the ability to defend. But it's not even that the Gatekeeper droid would abuse the power, but those who own it might. Jabba being a great example. So I'm cautiously saying, give them a little more to defend the door.
Yeah, I think that they should be able to live full, robust lives, which means being able to actually defend the door. I think those daggers on their handle, those spikes, I think they should be able to shoot them.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, fire them. I think if somebody tries to grab them, I think they should be able to do a little electric shock. And then if absolutely necessary, I think that they should have a body in waiting inside the door and be able to burst through the door like Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, like something giant. Okay. I kind of.
Yeah. Like everybody thinks they're just an eye and then suddenly buff robot droid.
Hey, boom. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
This is a fascinating study, and whatever we zero in on Star Wars, we often have empathy for.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing myself talk of like, they should be able to shock people, shoot daggers, and like, wait, what am I saying?
Yeah.
I'm just feeling bad for this droid in their limited life perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this next question kind of maybe gets into why I'm having some empathy for the gatekeeper droids. Do you think the gatekeeper droids have a high likelihood of being destroyed by annoyed bounty hunters and Jedi?
I think this happens all the time. I think we've only just started to scratch the surface on these droids and how they're abused. Yeah, absolutely. This because it's just made for that, right? Which is almost why it's like these droids are kind of bullies, but it's just like all I have to do is reach out and grab your neck. That's all I got to do.
Yeah, I think that's it. Is like they're almost like etiquette droids. Like they're scary and they got the deep voice and the cruel laugh, and they're clearly programmed so they can jut out at you just a little bit closer to make you nervous. Yeah. And it's the kind of thing like, oh, that's gonna work to intimidate, the vast majority of the galaxy. But in Star Wars storytelling, we spend time with people who are not going to be intimidated so easily. And, we got the scene in Mandalorian season 1 where Din just pops the head off like a dandelion.
Yeah, which, again, makes a lot of sense, unfortunately for these droids.
Yeah, I think the droids pop out and try to stop lots of people from coming through. I think, I've never fathomed this before, Ken, but I think if there was a top 10 list of things in the galaxy that are most likely to be chopped in two by a lightsaber. Now, I don't think the Jedi are likely to keep this, but if a Jedi did really want to do statistics of how often do we use our lightsabers and what do we use them on, I think the gatekeeper droid is like number 3 on that list.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a great list there. And it all goes back to what we're describing, or some people describe as this obnoxious behavior to the droid. If that hangs over you, where you're like, I'm most likely to be yanked out of my hole, I'm most likely going to be sliced in two. This is the life I have, and I got nothing. I'm in a GD door. Like, you might have a little cantankerous attitude.
Yeah, most likely to be yanked out of my hole. The conversation between the gatekeeper and the Sarlacc.
Yeah. But even then, the Sarlacc's like, yeah, ain't no one coming down to get me. And Gatekeeper's like, all I am is a stem.
So we have seen a couple characters have interactions with the Gatekeeper droids. Which Star Wars character would you like to see have a disagreement with this droid?
Oh, Jar Jar Binks, without a doubt. I think Jar Jar, because and there's a follow up that also my answer might be Jar Jar Binks, but I think Jar Jar would frustrate this droid so much because Jar Jar would approach it with an open heart, right? And I'm thinking particularly Jabba's. Like there might be again some other gatekeeper droids out there with a little bit different programming, but this one, this example that we have, laughing, taunting, bullying, Jar Jar would not even recognize that's happening to him. And I'm not saying that as an insult to Jar Jar. He just approached it with a pure heart, and I would cause the droid more anger, more frustration.
It's so fun to imagine, it coming out too far and bonking Jar Jar on the head, Jar Jar licking it with his tongue for some reason.
Yeah. Thinking it's like a space apple on a stick for him.
Yeah, touching its handle and getting the spikes. Ow.
Yeah. You just in the door? Come out the door.
Yeah. You used to live in door? Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I love that it is kind of a little history of what happened to Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Jar Jar was gatekept.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would be a healing scene for all of Star Wars, I think.
It's the scene we need.
My 2 top choices are Tech from Bad Batch. He's on my mind right now because I think Tech would have a real analytical conversation about the parameters of like, so just to be clear, all you can do is yell at me and report my presence. Yeah. You actually have no physical ability to impair my movement other than opening or closing a door.
That's amazing. Yeah. It have a similar effect. Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah. And I also want to see if Mace Windu can just stare down a gatekeeper droid, like how that programming works. If Mace can just, glower at a gatekeeper droid, it'll just go back into its hidey hole.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That'd be hilarious. Just that like the kind of the look Mace has after he kills Jango, where he like turns up to Dooku.
Yeah. Well, and the look he gives the head or the helmet itself, like, hey, Mace, you know Django can't see that now, right?
Yeah, that's what we need, him and the gatekeeper droid.
And do you have a Star Wars character that might befriend this droid, or is that also Jar Jar?
I was going to say, as I was even saying it, I was like, it might also be Jar Jar, because I think Jar Jar could get through to the droid. I think he has a way of doing that. Yes, he annoys a lot of folks, but I think he forms enough of a bond with R2 or 3PO, and definitely Padme sees him for who he is, which has great value. So I think he could push through that there. I'm trying to think of a droid that would. Yeah, L3. I go to L3 a lot. Yeah, L3 would be able to help this droid find out its true meaning.
Yeah, I was thinking about the character from the High Republic stories, Ram Jamaram, who's got a force sensitivity to tech itself. So I think maybe he sees the way everything goes together. So I think maybe he could see that. I really like the idea of L3 going on a mission to liberate these droids. Going on a mission to liberate Gonk droids and Gatekeeper droids, and add Gatekeeper droids to the head of Gonk droids, so they could both go around and have some adventures together.
Man, that's a fantastic, that's like one of those old straight to VHS Disney movies, like Otis and Milo find their way home or something like that.
Gonky and Gatey have an adventure together. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Please.
What doors in Star Wars should have a Gatekeeper droid that don't?
I really think the bunker on Endor would have helped the Empire if they could have really paid attention and seen what was going on. I don't think the droid would have stopped anything. Han might have just yanked it out, but they would have been able to send 2 squads to help. Let's look through the door. Oh, well, looking through the ring here, we got some problems out here.
Looking through the ring, we got some problems. The thing that jumped to my mind is Kylo Ren's office, because Rey seems to be able to just stroll in there. Maybe a little bit getting through a droid. That
is, by the way, that's the deleted scene I do want to see, of her just going, whoa, they left the door open. It's like whenever you watch those movies and someone knocks, and then they're like, oh, I'll just go in, because no one, who does that? So, yes.
Exactly. We always like to make it personal. It's not like we haven't made it personal already, starting with all of our door anxieties. But where would you put this droid in real life if it existed in our reality, Ken?
I would. It's funny. I mean, I even before we started the show today, I did not think of the Ring camera being that. It's so I would think my storage shed is a good spot.
Ooh.
It'd be talking to raccoons and squirrels and occasional crows, but just to know that peace of mind that, valuable Funko Pops will not be touched is a good spot. But I think I'd also put it near or on my local Del Taco drive-through, so that I could use it, because I get annoyed sometimes with how long people take to order food at fast food joints, particularly my Del Taco drive-thru. You get there, you know the numbers, you order it, you move on, so I can get home and deal with my food shame. So I'd want the Gatekeeper droid to be like laughing at him,
Yeah. I was going to go through with drive-thru as well, because I don't go through fast food drive-thrus as much as I'd like to, and this one would make it really fun. And also, I think it would probably extend all the way into your car and check out. Since these droids are all about judging, it would be really fun to roll through a McDonald's and say I just want 3 fish fillets and 3 apple pies. I know it's kind of a weird order, and then the droid comes all the way in the car and and sees that there's no one else in the car.
Yeah.
And judges my order.
I do like that you and I both, though we all have definitely tried to, find the heart of this droid. We are both in agreement. We could use this to bully people at fast food.
It's hard to get around. That's what it's designed for. It could be more, but right now it has a lot to aspire to. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Now we are going to have a little bit of empathy. We are going to literally put ourselves in not the droid's shoes, because it doesn't have feet. We're going to put ourselves in this droid's eye stock. If you were this droid, Ken, what real life door would you like to gatekeep?
I can't answer Del Taco again, huh? I think the door I would like to gatekeep is perhaps a door to any comedy club that I perform at regularly. So I can determine if you're the type of audience member we want. And I'd have a series of questions, some taunting laughs, and then maybe you get to go in.
Yep. This is me venting a little bit, but it's a similar thing. I would want it outside of movie theaters, and I would want it. I would want to be like, hey, how much did you pay for this movie? Cool. So then you wouldn't want to be checking your phone, right? Because why would you pay for this? And you're not going to talk through this movie, right? Because you paid for this. You want to watch it, right? And just see if the droid could shame people into simply watching the movie that they paid to watch.
Yeah, I like that.
Working through some things. We're going to move on to our final rating. We're going to rate the wild and weird factor and wondrous factor of the TT-8L/Y7 Gatekeeper Tattletale Door Droid. Our rating is based on one of the original Star Wars weirdos, and that is Lobots. Out of 10 Lobot heads, 1 being the least, 10 being the most, how many Lobot heads do you give this droid that's just an eye?
I am going with 8.5 out of 10. I think it's very, very weird. But in terms of Star Wars, maybe if you're, tooling around the galaxy, it's not that weird. The door has a droid in it. No, of course, that's not weird to you. So I think that lowers a little bit for me. But going back to the fear I felt as a 7-year-old and the wonder that was surfing and circling around my heart, I'm going to give it 8.5.
Yeah, I went a little bit lower. I was going to go 7 out of 10 because it is wild and weird, and it has become a little less wild and weird since we have similar technology.
Yep.
But hey, at least our ring doesn't laugh at you. It doesn't have that technology yet. But I bumped it up to 0.5 after I rewatched the Return of the Jedi scene and realized that this droid is designed so that not only does it come flying out at you, it leaves itself like an extra 3 inches to shoot out at you a little bit more to intimidate you.
It knows what it's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Really high-end stuff. So 7.5 out of 10 Lobot heads for the Gatekeeper droid. That is this episode of Databank Dive. You can find links to all things Force Center on our Twitter at Force Center Pod. Ken, where can people find you?
Hey, you can find me at Ken Napzok or go to my website, kennapzok.com. There you can link to things like my radio show, Pop Rockin' Radio, or my new podcast, The Blathering, on the Napzok Network podcast feed.
Excellent. And you can find me on all the social media with the handle at Joseph Scrimshaw, where, unlike this droid, we will never gatekeep you about being a fan of Star Wars. That is it for Databank Dive.